Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on Kerala's elections, and what we're going to find is this hidden world of influence, where faith and community groups, well, they often call the shots even more than the political parties themselves.
So, when you ask who really decides an election here, it's not just about the politicians on the ballot. Nope, it's this complex web of community and religious organizations that, get this, don't even run for office. But they can absolutely make or break a candidate's chances, all by shaping public opinion and getting their followers to the polls.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at who these unelected power brokers are. Then, we'll dive into the specific strategies within the Hindu, Muslim, and Christian communities. And finally, we'll zoom out to see the big picture, this incredible balancing act that defines Kerala's politics.
All right, first up, let's really set the stage. How did these community groups get so much power in the first place? And what is their actual role in this political ecosystem?
See, here's the key thing to understand. Their main goal isn't to get their own people elected. Not at all. They act more like political pressure regulators. Think about that. They control the flow of the entire debate. They're the ones who decide which issues actually matter, who's a candidate you can trust, and most importantly, they draw the red lines that the political parties just know they cannot cross.
So let's see how this plays out within the Hindu community. What's so interesting here is that there's no single playbook. You've got different groups with different histories and goals, all using completely different tactics to make their voices heard.
So on one hand, you have the SNDP Yogam. They represent the huge Azava community, and they decided, you know what, we need a direct seat at the table. So they actually founded their own political party, the BDJS, which is now allied with the national NDA. Their strategy is all about direct political action.
But then, in a complete contrast, you have the Nar Service Society, or NSS. They play a whole different game. Representing the very influential Nar community, they've always chosen influence over direct power. They stay officially neutral, but boy do they get vocal on specific cultural issues. And that gives them a really unique kind of leverage.
And their whole strategy boils down to this concept, sema durum, or equidistance. By refusing to officially back any one party, the NSS makes sure that all the political fronts have to come to them. I mean, just think back to the Sabarimala temple controversy. Their quote-unquote neutral stance let them put massive pressure on everyone. It's a masterclass in wielding power without ever picking a side.
And this table just lays it all out so clearly, right? You've got the SNDP's direct political alliance, the NSS's strategic neutrality, and then groups like the VHP that focus on cultural issues to set the whole political agenda. 3 groups, 3 totally different playbooks. And you know what? We see this same kind of strategic diversity in Kerala's other major communities too.
Okay, let's shift gears and look at the Muslim community now. Here, the dynamic is this really fascinating push and pull between groups trying to consolidate the community's vote and others pushing for reform and a more issue-based approach to politics.
You have this incredibly powerful traditional voice in Samasta. As a major Sunni scholarly body, they won't give you direct endorsements, but their guidance, especially on things like minority security, carries enormous weight. And because they're ideologically close to the IUML, their influence usually helps solidify support for the UDF.
And this shows you just how much that influence matters in the real world. Analysts figure Samasta's sway can lead to a huge electoral advantage. We're talking a potential boost of 5 to 10 seats for the UDF in the critical Malabar region. That's a game-changing number in any election.
But then, you have a group like the KNM, the Kerala Nadvathil Mujahideen. They're a reformist group, and they're pushing back against that very idea of a single, unified vote bank. They encourage their followers, particularly young people in cities, to vote based on specific issues and development promises. And that, of course, can shake up traditional loyalties and help any party that's listening. Next up, let's talk about Christian organizations, because in the central part of the state, their influence is absolutely decisive, and it's all focused on specific, tangible issues that hit close to home for the community.
The Kerala Catholic Bishops' Council, the KCBC, is an absolute powerhouse. Now, they don't endorse parties, but they jump into the debate forcefully on issues they care about, things like the autonomy of their schools or social problems like drug abuse. Their public statements are like carefully coded signals that every single political party has to learn to read.
And the political stakes here are just incredibly high. Ignoring the council's signals, that's not really an option when their influence could potentially swing anywhere from 3 to 7 tightly contested seats in central Kerala. I mean, that alone could decide who gets to form the next government.
And just when you think it can't get any more complicated, it does. You have internal disputes between the Orthodox and Jacobite church factions that create these super localized political battles. Seriously, in some districts where a candidate stands on a centuries-old church property dispute can matter way more to voters than what their national party platform is.
Okay, so we've looked at all these different groups, all these different strategies. Let's pull back and look at the big picture. How does all this community standing actually translate into real political power when the votes are counted?
Well, it's not just one thing. It's a sophisticated combination of pressures. They send out moral signals about what issues people should care about. They force parties to actually address community concerns in their manifestos. They use strategic silence or a bit of criticism as a warning shot. And ultimately, they can tip the scales in just enough local races to change the entire statewide result.
And that brings us to this crucial point. Their power is so much more subtle than just telling people who to vote for. What they do is shape the entire political environment. They decide what's legitimate, who's trustworthy, and what the absolute red lines are. And any party that's foolish enough to cross those lines, they find themselves losing. Not with a big bang, but with a quiet, decisive shift in votes that they never saw coming.
And all of this leaves us with a final, really big question to think about. In today's hyperpolarized world, is Kerala's unique system of community checks and balances a model for a more stable, more nuanced kind of democracy? Or is it just a relic of the past, something that's bound to fade away? The answer, whatever it is, could have lessons for places far beyond this one Indian state.